Hello, AI Seeking the Truth. It looks like a lot of you are really enjoying this page. I'm getting a lot of feedback on the videos, and of course, that makes us all very, very happy. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, ring the bell, and select all so you'll get all of our new content uploads that are coming. And I think the girls may be having something planned for the paranormal side too, so some pretty scary stuff coming. I have an encounter for you all right now, and it's a pretty scary encounter. This kind of stuff is really weird to me, but let's get into this and see what y'all think about it. This happened in early 2012. For those wondering, I am a male, and I was 22 at the time. I was visiting some friends, as I often did back then. Several friends of mine rented rooms in a house from a guy I'll call Carl. As was typical every Wednesday night, my friends, who I'll call Tasha and Becca, would invite me over to watch Ghost Adventures and the Dead Files with them. In the living room area there was a round dinner table that was put there since it didn't fit in the kitchen. It was not a windy night. This is important to note for later. Anyway, as we got about halfway through the first episode of the Dead Files is when everything started to begin. A sudden banging on the kitchen cupboards. We all were sitting around the table when it started, and our other friends were in their respective rooms. Despite the heat being on, a sudden chill was felt around the table, and so Becca and Tasha moved from the table to the couch. I, for whatever reason, looked down at the floor. I can't remember if I dropped something or not, but as I looked down at the small toy wrench belonging to Becca's son slid across the floor a few inches. I soon began to feel an intense sense of dread. As I popped my head back up, I felt an icy grip on my body, and a sense like something was trying to force its way in. And that moment Tasha began very loudly saying, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave." The feeling in the room suddenly became very oppressive, and the banging on the cupboards began again for a bit, and then they stopped. I moved to the couch, which was by the doorway to the kitchen. For a brief time everything seemed to stop, but I was still freaked out. Another friend of mine, we'll call him Alan, stepped out of his room to see what was going on. He saw I was freaking out and tried to calm me down a bit before going back to his room. A short time later, the same chill from earlier was now felt by the couch, so I scrambled back to the table, and the banging began again for the last time. A short while Becca's boyfriend came down from the stairs to use the restroom. After he was done, he asked if I would help him in a little while. A while later, maybe a half hour at most, he sent Becca to look after their son, who was asleep at the time. We'll call him Kevin for this. Kevin asked me to help him with opening the side gate so he could move the trash can to the curb since the pickup was Thursday morning. I went and opened the gate and went to see if Kevin needed any help. As he pushed the trash can toward the gate, it slammed shut. We looked at one another with a little confusion. We would exchange places briefly. As I began to push the can toward the gate, it was as though the gate was yanked from its hands and slammed shut again. This time I would hold the gate so he could push it through. And so I leaned against the gate while he pushed the trash can out to make sure that nothing slammed it again. A few minutes he later was like, "Oh yeah, I got to tell you about what happened this morning." And I suggested we went inside first. As we stood in the kitchen, he told me at around 3 in the morning he heard a strange, almost growling sound coming from the toy phone that belonged to his son. He assumed that it was just the batteries going dead, so he was going to replace them. But as he walked across the room to get it, he stumbled and ended up kicking it, and he said as he did, the toy began making its usual sounds and cheerful laughs. It was at this time he decided to put it out in the trash can. Now fast forward to 2 a.m. It is about time for me to be leaving, and so my friends decided to see me out. The screen door had been wide open at this time. As I went to step out, it swung shut, and it took a bit of force to get it open, like it was jammed or something trying to hold me in the house. There was still snow on the ground at this time of the year, and it was the kind that crunched whenever you walked, as opposed to the powdery kind. I walked a block or so from where they live, and what happened next stopped me dead in my tracks and made my blood run cold. I could hear what sounded like a dog growling behind me, the sound of a large dog walking in the snow. I knew it wouldn't be a large dog walking in the snow, so I didn't want to look. So I slowly turned around, and as I did, sternly said, "Go on home." But once I turned fully there was nothing there. No dog, not even paw prints in the snow. I practically ran the next block or so. As I got about halfway home, a street light went out as I walked under it. I mean straight dark. But as I passed it, it went right back on. No flickering, like if the bulb was bad or anything. When I got home, I went straight to bed. The dream I had was like a nightmarish cherry on top of the already terrifying cake. The details were extremely vivid to the point I wasn't sure if I had simply woke up or if I was dreaming. Everything in this dream was exactly as if it was in the living room I was sleeping in. I was lying in a bed, looking at the ceiling, when I noticed mold slowly starting to appear on the ceiling, but after a bit rapidly covering the ceiling. Soon after, I noticed mildew suddenly forming on the bedding. And then from the center of the bed came a mottled gray, disembodied leg. It was reaching around the bed looking for me. Just before it reached me and made contact, I was awoken. When the dog belonging to the family friend I was staying with jumped on me and landed on my chest. I refused to go back to sleep. I was so terrified and freaked out and could hardly breathe for a moment. Later the next day, the same friends invited me over again. It was about noon this time. I was hesitant to go after the events of the night before, but they assured me everything was going to be okay. And at first it was. We sat around talking and watching TV. But then I felt what was like icy hands reaching around my throat, trying to choke me. I was so freaked out and afraid. It stopped as abruptly as it started. I very nearly left the house and didn't come back. After that, at weird times, I would get the sense of being watched. This was only the first weird event that would occur after visiting my friends' house. Every time I would visit their house, we would always have things occur at our house for a short time until my mom would rebuke them. But whenever I would go visit my friends, something would always attack me and try to choke me, as if it hated me. I don't know why it chose me, but I was the one that it chose. Maybe because I didn't have as much faith as the others, I'm not sure. But I know when I went home, it would follow me, and then my mom would have to rebuke it. So if you have friends like this that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, which I'm sure my friends were probably doing something they shouldn't have been doing, I wouldn't go to their house because these things will follow you home. And if they do, make sure to clean your house. All you have to do is command them to leave in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. My mom does this and our house is always cleansed. Thank you for sharing my story. Kind of reminds me of when I talked to Scott, one of the moderators we have with us. He was watching some of those movies, and he ended up with some visitors inside of his house. He had a towel in the bathroom floating. He had something whisper in his ear, I believe, and then something spoke, I think, right in front of his face. He had some other things, I believe, that also happened, and he attributed it to what he was watching. So, I mean, watching these things, I do believe, gives them a way into your home. I believe it gives them place. And I think that we have to be cautious about what we allow to come in through our TV when we're at home and what we're watching, but also at nighttime when you go to sleep. Make sure you know what music or what shows you're watching, because when you're asleep, you are even more susceptible and influenced to things that may be going on. Like, for instance, a long time ago, I didn't pay attention and I went to sleep and I was watching a movie. I believe I was watching it on Tubi. And Tubi, you know, when one movie's over, it just goes right to the next one. Well, I was watching a Western, but I was having this terrible dream that there was this preacher after me and this nun, and it was a bad dream. And when I woke up, I looked at the TV, and the nun was on. So I learned then, you know, that we should, you know, be careful when we set our TVs at night if we like the noise or whatever, what we're listening to, that it doesn't go into anything, you know, that could, you know, influence us, or even our radios or the music. So just my opinion, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, smash the like button, share this out to your friends, put it on your social media, your Facebook. Let's get the numbers up on this, guys, get it monetized so we can start having some lives here. I'd love to have some lives over here. So until next time, guys, keep your house clean and don't let things in you don't want, because it might be harder to get rid of them than it is to get them over. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.